Record on there. Go live. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Shay Ali here with you today on Inspired Online. And today I welcome the gorgeous Nicki Vee. Now, for those of you that were watching last week, we had her lovely husband, Tony, on. But let me say a few words about Nicki. So Nicki is from the world of coaching. She is a phenomenal coach. Let me say that first. There seems to be no problem too big. You could come to her with like the most distressing situation in the world, and what you'll be greeted with is complete calmness, complete certainty, and this real space to let you know you're safe and we've got this. And you know, she's dealt with all sorts of things, and I think that's just to her credit. Also, what's amazing is her and Tony, as I said last week, have been dealing with relationship issues and business coaching as well, and training coaches on how to coach. So they have their own amazing techniques on how to coach, and have trained lots of master coaches around the world. But they had a personal goal too of saving 1 million relationships. And I know that was over 13 years ago now, but the amount of resources they have, the amount of people they've helped, and at the moment they're doing the charity, which is the 1010 movement, just to help people feel more connected. And they've got some amazing tools around that. So Nicki's got this real wealth of skills, experience, wisdom, and is incredibly engaging as well. It's always been very, very popular when she's come to Inspired in London. So welcome, Nicki. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me. I am always love being involved with Inspired. You know, it is such a wonderful community, and yes, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'll ask you the modified question. It's a slightly modified question from the stage version, but it is, if you had to share your wisdom with the world in a nutshell, what would you tell us?
Oh, well, I was fascinated by that list of things you shared.
You've got a whole load to choose from.
You might have heard Tony say, but it's worth repeating, is that, you know, thank you for saying wisdom, because I think that you know, there's a couple of different ways of looking at that, and we Tony and I have been around the sun a lot of times, is what we call it, rather than anything to do with age, which has given us a lot of life experiences, which some of which, of course not all, some of which have given us experiences that we've learned from, which have given us some wisdom which we've loved to share with other people. So thank you for the question. It's a great question to kick off with, and it's a question I'm asked quite a lot, and it's actually changed over the last couple of weeks, because wow. Wonderful gift that the universe has given us to challenge us and to stretch us and to give us a different experience called COVID, or whatever they call it. I think that many people have done what you've done, Shay, which is just take their business from offline to online, and take their communities from offline to online. So I've done quite a lot of interviews in the last couple of weeks. It's been fantastic fun. And I've noticed that when I spoke a couple of weeks ago, that I actually added something on to my answer, because for years and years and years, people used to say to me, if there was one thing to share, Nicki Vee, one piece of wisdom that you think has been the most helpful to you on your journey from, you know, having a life that was only, as Tony would put it, half happy if at best, to a life of, you know, that I'm having, you know, marvelous time,
joy
kind of thing.
Grace and
yes, exactly. I always have said over the last 20 odd years that I've been around this kind of work, you know, I've always said that I believe that the one thing that's assisted me has been the conversations I have with myself. And, you know, just to elaborate on that just a little bit, is to say that so often we're talking to ourselves in a negative way. Many people teach that, and they say, you know, often we've got this little voice that's saying we're not good enough, or we're not lovable, or we're not, you know, you can't, and all that sort of thing. And often we'll make very negative sayings about ourselves inside of ourselves. So what I learned many, many years ago was really to go, I need to be my own best friend.
Yes.
I need to, if I'm going to teach people to be kind to themselves, if I'm going to teach people to love themselves, if I'm going to teach people to be their own appreciation, their own validation, which so many people look outside of themselves for that. And of course, then therefore that can be withdrawn, taken away. It can be not fulfilled. And then we feel lost,
Yeah.
If we can give ourselves what we need, then I think we're then best placed to give to others. So, in a sort of nutshell, I started to talk to myself in a more empowering way. I started to talk to myself in a way that said, one of the first people that I ever came across in personal development before Tony Robbins and it was the amazing Hay, with Hay House Publishing, has got a lot of personal development people on her books, as it were. Obviously, sadly, she died a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But a great woman. And one of the first things that I, learned from her was the power of loving ourselves. And it's a very strongly used term, Shay. You must have heard it millions of times, like I have.
Of course.
But if you can truthfully have loving conversations with yourself that appreciate your gifts, that appreciate that you've always done the best you could with the resources you had, even though we've perhaps done things that we regret or we feel bad about or whatever. But we can say, look, okay, maybe I did some behavior that wasn't that great, but actually I'm going to love myself exactly as I am. And so I think that's the number one thing.
No, that's really beautiful. And I think, a lot of people out there possibly have never even had that conversation with themselves. So let's dig a little deeper. How do you start if you've never done that before? Well, what do you do and what do you say?
Yeah, that is a really good question, because it's easier for me to tell you the ultimate way of doing it. And I know, because as a coach, obviously, like yourself, I know the value of not just saying, oh, here's a good idea, why don't you do that? For me, that's coaching. That's just kind of training, mentoring, whatever we call it. But actually to realize that the only reason why we might change the way we do anything, or specifically as we're talking about the way we talk to ourselves, is when we realize that the way we're doing it right now is harmful. It's creating some of the experiences we don't like, which kind of sort of brings me to another thing that I think I've learned that I love to share with people. And that is, talk about going from like a sort of gentle, wouldn't it be nice to talk to ourselves gently, to what I call the law of cause and effect. And, I remember being really excited when The Secret came out. And A Secret is a great thing, by the way, especially for people when they're just coming into this world of another way of looking at things. But of course, The Secret is about the law of attraction, and of course, it's a lovely philosophy, and I'm not making it wrong at all. I'm just saying it's great. And it is like, put it out there, goal set, maybe do dream boards, maybe, keep imagining what it is you want, and it will appear, and all that, ask it's, and it is given all that. I love all of it. And I think that there is another layer that we can go to, which is what I believe about coaching. I think we need to go underneath that layer and go, yes, when we put that out there for what we want, we need to do that with a lot of conviction and a lot of commitment. But sometimes we have to clear up some stuff first. Yeah. And I think that what I mean by that is, if we are open to the possibility that we are part of the issue, we're experiencing something that we don't like, whether that is relationships, work, money, family, friends, intimate relationships, you name it, right? Even health, and that's perhaps a slightly more contentious thing to look at and to go, you know, could I be part of the problem? But I think a lot of people in our world are definitely open to the possibility that we in some way contribute to having something in our lives that we're not that pleased about or keen about, or that's giving us pain, or that's out of where we're out of sorts, or we're not well, or we're unhappy, or we haven't got the money we want, or whatever, you name it. And I think that if we are open to the possibility that we have played a part in that, then that is the magical gift we give ourselves, is by being open to that. So before we start trying to manifest everything we want, I think if we can be honest with ourselves and have a bit of a conversation with ourselves without beating ourselves up, little rule that I've got, beat yourself up because you were doing the best you could, is that we go, look, let me take something in my life, and maybe this would be a good thing to do now as we're doing it. Is something in our lives that we're not happy about, that's not working, that's not going as well as we'd like. And we go, you know, how might it be? What am I doing that is preventing me from having this as a good experience?
Yeah.
What would the answer to that question be? Or am I open to the possibility that I'm playing a part in this? Question has only got a yes or no answer. And if you say yes, I'm open to the possibility I'm playing some sort of part, to ask ourselves, so what's the truth? Because it was another question I like. What part am I playing in this? Now, you know, I wouldn't be serving people who I know are around your community of Inspired, who have done a lot of personal development and a lot of spiritual development and business development. I wouldn't be being honest if I didn't say that the ultimate question to ourselves is, how have I created this?
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes that takes you, I mean, it took me years to get there, you know, to the point of where I went, well, you know, how would it be if I've created all of it? In which case, the work that Tony particularly does, which is really to assist people who haven't come across the kind of things that, you know, we come across all the time with your community, with lots of people who have got a lot of experience in this field. He is always looking to assist people who haven't really come across this kind of philosophy, and he'll ask them the scale 0 to 10, where are you? But what we've always found is that sometimes you have to start off with being very gentle with yourself and just say, well, look, you know, if I've played a part in this, what could that part have been?
Yeah.
Until we're ready to say, how have I created this? And once we've done that, and we've realized the part we've played, and we have accepted that it's okay, it's like I've just realized it, and that actually now we decide what part we want to play, I think then we can have resourceful conversations with ourselves that kind of say, look, you know, you kind of did that and it got you that kind of result, and now how would it be if you behaved in that way, so that you get a different result? And so the ultimate first step is to have those conversations with yourself, but also to be nice to yourself. So it's like, I teach a lot of girls about mirror work, again, something that, you know, Louise Hay teaches. And I always say there's one thing to say when you get in the mirror and you look at yourself and you stop looking at your hair and your makeup and all that. And you look straight into your eyes and you look deep inside. And as men, I've taught lots of men to do this as well, but it's not quite so acceptable to some men to do this. They think,
well, I don't know, there was that guy on Sliding Doors, right? He always had that conversation in the mirror.
Well, and you know, it's funny, like our favourite film, Patch Adams, he has a conversation with himself in the mirror. So you're absolutely right. Maybe I'm being very unfair to say that men wouldn't do this. So if they're open to it, look deep into your eyes. Nowadays they'd be looking at their hair as well. You look deep into your eyes and then say these words, and these are my favorite words, and they're so simple to remember, and that is you're doing great. You tell yourself you're great. And then you start to tell yourself what is necessary to tell yourself. It's okay. If you're confused, it's okay. You're going to get clarity. It's okay if you're feeling unsafe. It's okay. You're safe. It's okay. You have the support of the universe. It's okay. It's a conversation in your own words with yourself. Oh my goodness me, Shay, the amount of people that have said to me, that's so helpful for me, just getting to know myself a little bit and to have a conversation with myself, because so many people outside of themselves and I'm not outside of yourself for guidance, or for wisdom. It's great because some people have been around the sun a bit longer or been around the community a bit longer. But I think we have to have a trust in ourselves and our own wisdom as well to know how to adjust things. I don't like to use the word change too much because some people that's too big a step, but to adjust things so that we have a better or different experience of any part of our life.
So that's beautiful in terms of the mirror work, and certainly something that people can apply even tonight when you take your makeup off for the girls or go brush your teeth or whatever. Take that opportunity and go to the mirror. But this concept of cause and effect, and it's a big one to take on for your life.
Straight to the biggest and most difficult thing to talk about.
Why not? Because I want to know your take on this. This is a question that you probably get a lot, and I've certainly seen it asked a lot as well. But what if it's that event that you don't want to have happened? So I'll use myself as an example to avoid being too controversial. When I was 27, I got mugged in the street. And he took my handbag and he tried to hurt me basically. And I was fine. But how did I innocently walking down my street cause that?
Ooh, this is a tough question to answer. And I think there are many answers to it. So let me give you a stab at a couple.
Please.
There is some philosophy that says that there is a lot at play unconsciously. And that actually we put signals that we're not aware of.
Right.
And those signals could be very obvious, or they could be very subtle and we're not even aware of them. Okay. Now, and to sort of really do that in simple terms, let me share with you where this comes from. It comes from a great book called "Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting."
Right, lovely.
Everybody have come across that book. And I read it many years ago, and it's written by a woman called Lynn Grabhorn, who again is not alive anymore. Obviously, like Louise came to this wisdom very late in life, and she talks about virtually the law of cause or effect. But she's also talking about unconscious behaviour in a lot of times. I think this again is sometimes difficult to imagine that there may be unconscious signals that we're giving out that we're not aware of, that are learnt behaviour, that could be copied behaviour from whoever's had an influence on us, not necessarily parents, could be anybody who's had influence on us, or that we've had something happen before that has been scary. Now, I know you well, so I know you've had something happen on in life that was scary.
Yeah.
So you are superb. So I'm assuming there was a and it happens, and I'm going to use the words on purpose, it happens to us, because I think to start when young, right, there is a value in seeing if there was any part we played. And I must, I admit to you, I coach some people who are living an experience in life now at 30, 40, 50, 60, that they are openly saying is they're having a difficult time in life because of something that's happened as a very young child. So we decide we're going to look at that and see if we can get a learning from it, not to make anything right, wrong, or anything about it, but if it can happen now in this time, in that day, this age. And so it happened, and you've had a reaction to it. So if it's frightening, it's very well proven that means we'll have adrenaline rush through our bodies, and we will go into fight or flight, or whatever the terminology is. And what happens is, we, again, slightly out there thinking, but I know you know this stuff, Shay, yourself, is that we will have some cellular memory of that.
Yes.
And therefore, and they say that, it is said that, I'm not saying it's a fact, I'm just saying it is said that when something happens, if it is a shock, if it's noisy, or if it's falling, brings a lot of it. And therefore, could it be possible that we put out signals based on something that's happened a very long time ago, where we might be in a situation where we think we're just walking down the street, da 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 da, and when in actual fact there might be some signals still exuding from our bodies, in our kind of energy that's going out, that has a little bit of fear in it. Now, I don't know, that's going to be different for every single person. So what Louis Grabhorn says is that when we're giving out a signal, it's like at the unconscious level, and it can be picked up by other people at an unconscious level, not even at a conscious level, but as an unconscious level. Now, I'm going to go even further out there now.
Go for it.
The other philosophy says, could it be that you'll have heard of, Tony might have even mentioned it, and many of other of your speakers will have done, is that, are we a spiritual being having an earthly experience, or are we an earthly being who has a spirit? I don't know. I believe we're a spiritual being having an earthly experience. In which case, if we are a spiritual being, which many teachers teach of, if the spirit part of us is infinite, and we come to this, have this earthly experience of mind and body. So if we're mind, body, spirit, the spirit always carries on, and we utilize the body for however many years, and then it's finished with, kind of thing, and the mind as well. That actually, when we have this experience called experience of life in the third dimension in this body, that actually we come to have a lesson or an experience. And that it is said that we need to have those things happen, because that's the experience we're meant to have. Now, there's a lot of out there thinking there, and I believe that's why cause and effect is a very helpful thing to understand and look at for yourself, because it takes us out of the victim of something happening. So, for example, we might be the victim of something like you described, which is a horrible experience to have. But if we think we are just the victim of that randomly, then could it be possible that we go around thinking it could happen again?
Yeah.
If we're aware that there could be something unconscious being exuded, then we feel like that could have had a part to play in it. Then we can look and find out what that part is. And maybe, I don't know, because I don't know, I'm not saying this is a fact, but maybe that part could then be, we could understand it excuse me 1 minute. Somebody's at the doorbell.
It's okay.
Maybe you have to excuse me. I have to get Tony. You can leave it. No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll be 2 seconds.
Well, Nicki will be back with us in a second. Thank you for those of you that are tuning in live. She will be back in a minute. We're talking about the world of cause and effect and how things may have happened for a reason, or you may have even indeed chosen that path. And I will say, you know, from my experience, I don't know necessarily how I chose that, but what it did, which I think is a gift to my life, maybe not everyone is going to agree, but it made me be a driver. As prior to that, I was on public transport all the time, blah, blah, blah. Since that experience, I had a driving license, never used the car. I went from never to always.
Yes. Yeah.
And I like that, actually, you know, the level of comfort and
absolutely
what I got out of that was great.
You know, for every person will have a different experience of whether that gives you a lesson that's fairly logical.
Yeah.
It could be emotional, which sounds like that wasn't a nice experience, so let me, you know, do something that I've been thinking about doing, but let me do it anyway. So there can be lots of gifts in it, you see. Yeah. So I suppose what I'm saying is there'll be a gift in everything, especially the things that aren't perhaps how we'd like them to be.
Yeah.
And if the gift is not clear, it sometimes is worthwhile delving a bit deeper and seeing if there's any kind of unconscious thing that could be being put out there. And most of our unconscious behavior, because remember, unconscious is the word here, comes from things that have happened to us when we are younger. And they're not wrong, they're just not in our sphere of consciousness. So they are ways of behaving which are not wrong, but they could be bringing us things that we don't like. And I actually like the spiritual view of it, which is that we're here to have a learning. If you speak to people who have had a very big thing happen to them, a lot of them will say it was a gift and they would have it happen again.
Yeah.
You know, people have had cancer, people have had car accidents, it's given them some sort of gift to, well, you could say, weren't we, about this situation being to the planet. Think of all, you know, the virus thing has caused us to, I was reading in the paper this morning, that caused us to have the longest time we've ever had so far in this country, where our power has been created without fossil fuels.
Amazing, right?
I'm I'm like you, I love travel, but we're not traveling at the moment, so we're not affecting the planet in that way.
And apparently the ozone layer is loving this as well.
Exactly. And so, you know, there's good and not so good in everything. But I think paradigm, they call it, is something that we can kind of flirt with at any time in our lives. We can kind of just be open to it, and so that we don't believe that we're a victim of things, because that's not a nice place to be, and it causes us we were in some kind of or some contribution to it, that we can then go, okay, so maybe I'll do that. Interrelationships are the best example of this. You know, of an relationship that's not going so commonly, go, so let me find somebody else, right? What do we make ourselves in this relationship? Something like that happens again. This is my history anyway, before I realised that I was the common denominator. And when I really got giving me experience not lovely for me, I realised that myself up. Doing was going, okay, so that behaviour was not a person, even though I thought it was justifiable, logical, whatever it was. realised that I play a part in an intimate relationship that was a much more loving, much more understanding, much more conducive to us having a great. I think I'm there.
Okay, I think we might have paused.
Oh, right, that's okay.
Yeah, you said you once you realised, you know, that you might be contributing, then you're open to having a much more loving, positive connection.
Yes, and so it meant that I felt more like I could. I was more of the creator of a great relationship rather than a victim of a bad one. I've never heard myself say that, but I think
that's a beautiful way to put it.
Quite a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Well, we are almost at time, although I do have another question that came to mind, so I'm going to ask you if you don't mind. You mentioned earlier about the law of attraction and, you know, kind of putting things out there, and I've always wondered this, you know, how big. There's two frames of thought, you know, if you don't dream big, you can't get that dream because you haven't really thought it. But then how big do you go? I mean, I could say something like, well, I want to live in the White House, and it's probably not going to happen because I'm not an American citizen. So.
And you're not massively attracted to.
No, you know. How do you tailor those requests?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've never been asked that before. And as you were asking it, a picture came into my mind, and I think this might be helpful. I think, you know, I'm from the same school of thought as you, Shay. I think, you know, you got to dream big. You know, don't when you dream, when you vision, another way of putting that, don't let your fears, don't let your doubts, don't let your can'ts come into it. Just vision as if
it's all possible.
Something already happened, positive and all. Big is vision to the size of dream based on what you're prepared to do to go towards it.
Oh, I love that. Vision to the size of dream based on what you're prepared to do to go towards it.
Because you think about it. You want to live in the White House, right? Or you want to be, okay, you want to live in the White House. It's such a great example. Well said. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, but, you know, let's imagine that that's what I wanted.
So my brain then goes, as long as you're not attached to how that might happen, there's absolutely nothing wrong with dreaming that. But are you prepared to do what it takes to move towards it? So that might mean going and living in Washington.
Yeah.
That might mean in the White House where you'd live in. Or, you know, going to live there so that actually you might finish up married to the next president. I don't know, but you get what I mean.
Probably not.
There. And also in saying that, would say, don't be attached to it being the White House, right? So you could say, so then you could ask yourself, what makes me want to live there? Well, it's palatial, iconic, it's this, it's the seat of power, it's whatever comes to you. So if that's important to me rather than the actual thing, how do I live my life now in order that could, I don't even want to use the word feasibly because that's just not in the same, we shouldn't be using that in this moment.
No.
How do I need to live my life now so that I can believe that it's even possible for me to have that come into my world? And honestly, I've met some people over the years who have been so focused on their dream that you just know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because they put that as very, very important.
Yeah.
And they make it the most important thing. If you hear things like Eckhart Tolle, right?
Yeah.
You think of his, I don't know whether he was married. I don't think he was married, but I think he was prepared to sleep on his friend's floor while he wrote the book, because he decided there was nothing else more important than getting that book out. He wasn't even going and selling 1 million books and making this amount of money and being on Oprah and all that kind of stuff. He was just going, that was the most important thing to him. So I think if you vision big, you've got to be prepared to take the steps, big steps. And the other thing you've got to remember, especially if you're coaching somebody who's talking about dreaming big, is you have to remember that what you see as big may not be what they see as big. Yeah. So again, Robbins, he's got a book called Giant Steps, right? Well, what's a giant step to me or you, Shay, might be a humongously giant step to someone who's not got our desires. I mean, we have the desire to do things like we're doing now. I mean, this is me and you in the zone. This is what we like doing. Whereas somebody who goes, well, I love what I do, I create, I've got a craft business or whatever. But if you said, come on Zoom and be interviewed, they go, oh, no, I don't want to do that, right?
Yes, yeah, I've had that too.
A massive step for them might be to, I don't know, create something and like go and try and sell it to Tesco's. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if the dream is big, we need to be willing to take big steps towards it. And I think that, I think we should dream massive. And just to tidy up, and I know we're finishing now, the thing that comes to mind was my dream of my intimate relationship. And you know the story. It was that literally I had a great life, and I had a fab job, and then I had a fab business as a coach, and I had a lovely home and nice things and plenty of money and all that, everything that people think make them happy.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And I was happy. I'm not pretending I was in a bad state. I'm not. And people say, oh, is this all that life is? I didn't really think that. I thought more of like, yes, but everything would be so lovely if I was in an intimate relationship that was healthy compared to what I was in before. And I'd done all the thing, just to go back to what we first said, as like, how was I behaving in my previous relationships, which was clearly not good for them. So they obviously did behavior that I didn't like. So takes two to create that amount of disconnection and pain. And so I decided I knew how I needed to be, but I wasn't making it number one. I was still in the mode of, well, how am I going to get more clients or more money, or not. I mean, I like you, I like to travel and things, but I wanted to make it number one inside here. So I visioned really big about how my life would be and what my man would be like, and how I would live my life and what we would do together and all those sorts of things. And I wrote it all down, and I had it in my handbag for a long time. And I did lots of things, vision boards and all. I did anything at all. So I took these steps. Like somebody told me it's good to clear your clutter. You always talk about clear clutter.
Yes.
My 75-80% of my clothes, shoes and handbags and coats. and like, because somebody told me, you make space in life, you make space in the house. It's like a metaphor, not so he can move in, but so it's like a metaphor to your life. So I did it. I just did it. I thought, if it's going to work, I'm going to do it. So I did take massive steps. I sold my house, cut down, on my need to earn more money. So I was earning less money, and I was happy with that and all that. Loads and loads of things. But what was interesting is I wrote my vision, and I wrote it originally at an event. And literally they taught me, which, I teach this a lot with people, because I go, this is the way to do it. Literally get a pen and paper. Don't or pencil, leave the paper, just keep writing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody else has got it. Just what's my life going to look like in a relationship, or if it's wrong, another big cheat, right? So I wrote it out, and then I put it in my handbag, and then a few weeks later I started looking at it and changing a few things. So of course none of those happened because they came from the head rather than that. And then I remember it happening, but kind of being like, no, this isn't it, because my brain is still going, well, that's not quite exactly what I thought, and no, it can't be him, and all that kind of stuff. A long story short, pretty much there was things dream board which actually were like Tony looked like a picture on my dream board. We went somewhere and we had a gift and it was on my dream board. I mean, lots of silly spooky stuff, right?
Love all
and
that.
Then I looked back after about 5 or 6 years and realized that actually my life was even more than I had visioned.
That's beautiful.
Because I couldn't conceive it could be how it was, you know, because within 4 or 5 years, Tony and I had got our retreat in Austria. We're living in the mountains and we've got people coming all the time and we're traveling all over the world and everything was fantastic. Now things have changed and we're not doing all of that still, but other things have happened, of course. And life changes and we visited other places and we had other homes and other things. But I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, I never even dreamed this much. And just laughingly, I remember writing, thinking, I'm just going to write it anyway. And I wrote that, you know, it would be lovely if we had a cook. And it would be lovely if we had somebody, you know, to look after the house. But I mean, we'd already somebody that cleaned the house and everything. But I'm writing about cook. And then we had no intention of buying a hotel and finished up buying a hotel. So we had a cook and housekeeper living in already, doing everything. And it was as if like I hadn't done anything to even move towards the fact that we were going to buy somewhere where there was a living cook already. And I thought, you know what? I wrote it in my vision, but I remember thinking to myself, I can't imagine how could I ever, you know, you hear about people like Oprah having their cook at home and they live in and they cook for them the whole time. And I'm thinking, I'd love that, you know.
She hasn't always had that though. I bet she
maybe that should go in my next vision. I don't know where we put them now because our house isn't big enough to have somebody come in and live in.
But it's there to ask.
But my point is that if you're going to dream and you're going to vision, yes, dream big because you never know what's going to come.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today, Nicki. It's been such a joy, as it always is with you. How can our beautiful audience get in touch with you if they wish to?
Well, I mean, obviously, as you know, Shay, I'm very blessed to be working as a coach in my amazing son's business.
Yes.
My son, Nick James, does the most amazing events, live events, but live for empires, which are, of course, for one who's an expert in any field or anybody that's working to assist others to do something that they already know how to do. And so so Tony and I work with Nick now with his clients. So he's the sort of sales and marketing and the strategist and we're the coaches. But I think, you know, we have the best place for them to, if they're interested in us and what we teach, is the 10-10 movement.
Okay.
So if you go to YouTube or Facebook and you put the 10-10 or 10 hyphen, what do you call it, dash or hyphen?
Either way.
The THE 10-10 movement, you'll find us. There's lots of stuff on there. You know, do the test, find out where you are in your life, and then there's lots of videos from myself or Tony. And if anybody wants to talk to me, Facebook, message me, and if nothing else, I'll recommend a book or a coach. Probably tell you to go to Inspired. Yeah. I mean, I think I just like to recommend people to the right place.
Yeah, Ditto. So if you missed all that, we'll pop all the links up on facebook.com/inspired stage and under this video as well. But, you know, just to recap, you can get in touch with Nicki on Facebook, the 1010 movement, which we'll share links to, and also Expert Empires, where the fabulous Nick James puts on loads of great events and has loads of great people on there as well. So thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Thank you,
Nick,
for inviting me, and I'm trusting that have got something, and all I would say is, you know, take action, go towards that big dream, and
thank you.
Bye.
Cool. And that